Welcome to Japan on Film Podcast. I'm your host, Perry Constantine, and back with another returning guest. Jenn is back here, and she came on once before to talk about Perfect Blue. Jenn, how you doing today?
Good. It's not frozen, so we're doing good.
Yeah, so people who are listening, obviously these episodes come out a few months after we record them, like about a month or two after we record them. But right now it's February, and Jenn's coming from Texas, where they've had an unbelievable weather situation over the past week. So, but fortunately, she was didn't have it as bad as everyone else, and she was still able to come on the show today. So that's good.
I lucked out.
Yeah. So how have you been since the last time we talked?
Good. I've been watching a lot of TV.
Mm-hmm. You guys still doing a lot of quarantine where you are?
No, we're Texas. I mean, people sometimes wear masks, I guess. It's hard to tell. A lot of things are open at like 25% capacity now because my city is in like stage 5. So that's cool.
Yeah, we here in Kagoshima, like everything's pretty much open and things are basically pretty much more or less normal, except for the university classes I teach. Those are still online, but some of the universities have been trying to push a hybrid model where like half the students will be in the classroom and half of them won't be. So, which is just, I don't know, the teachers I know who've had to do that have just said it was a total nightmare. But other than that, like everything else is pretty much more or less normal. Businesses are operating as usual, but mask wearing is normal in Japan, so that everyone's wearing masks anyway.
Oh yeah, it's not here. I'm about it. I'll wear a mask every day, all the time.
Yeah, same here. So anyway, we brought you back on. So last time we talked about Perfect Blue. Now we're talking about another thriller and another kind of cult film. This is also the second movie this season that we're talking about, Takashi Miike. And that is the 2012 film called Lesson of the Evil, or悪の教典in Japanese. So what was your history going into this movie? Did you see it before you decided to come back on the show?
Yeah. So I've seen it before because I read the manga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I read the manga years ago, and then I don't know why it came up in a conversation I was having with someone because of the song that's in it.
Oh, the German version of Mac the Knife. Yeah, the original one.
Yeah, Moritat. But then we were talking about Mac the Knife because someone was talking about Bobby Darin. It was one of those weird conversations where it's like someone was talking about Bobby Darin, which means I brought up Mac the Knife because I was like, that's my favorite Bobby Darin song.
Justifiably so.
Yeah. And I was like, best Bobby Darin song to me. And then someone was like, isn't that a German song? And I was like, yeah, it's from like the Three Penny Opera. Like it has an original version, but like Mac the Knife is the jazz version of that song. And then one of my friends was just like, isn't that in some Japanese movie? And I was like, is it a movie? And he like showed it to me and I was like, I read that manga.
Oh, okay.
And then that's how I was like, oh, I need to watch this movie now. I haven't seen the drama though.
Yeah, I did see that there was a drama made out of it. And it was originally a novel, I believe. And then it was the manga. Yeah, the novel came out in 2010. It was by Yusuke Kishi. And then the manga came out in 2012. And that was drawn by Eiji Karasuyama.
Yeah, because I did that. And then I still haven't seen the drama, but I want to. But I think from what I heard, the drama is more about like him kind of when he was like, not like younger, but like comparably younger.
Okay, right.
Yeah, not like younger, but like
before like the main events of this movie.
Yeah, because like the main events of the movie are the same as like timeline wise as like the manga.
Okay.
I haven't read the novel though.
Yeah, I haven't. I just found out about it just doing the research to prepare for this episode. My only experience with it is the movie, and it was actually a few years ago. One of my students had mentioned it to me, she was in my film class and we were just kind of talking about Japanese movies in general. And she said this was her favorite movie. So I said, okay, well, I'll check it out. And I looked it up, and I was surprised that it was Takashi Miike who directed it, who I'm a huge fan of. And as people on the show who've been listening to the show are probably sick of me hearing talk about. But so I was really surprised that this was a Miike film that I'd never heard about before, and so yeah, I made sure to check it out. And what was your thoughts about it the first time you saw it, if you can remember?
I feel like my main thought most of the time was the first time I was like, yep, if you just shown it to me without me even knowing that it was Miike, I was like, I would have guessed. Because I was like, I remember the first Miike movie I watched was Ichi the Killer.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I can definitely see it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I remember most of my first thoughts, I think, were less about the story, because I already knew the story going in, and it was more about oh, that was different, that was interesting. Or I'm oh, the ending is a little bit different.
Okay, so
that's a little interesting.
How does it compare to the manga?
Oh my God, I haven't read the manga recently, but I remember being it's pretty close.
Okay,
they do speed up stuff, they kind of gloss over some stuff because the manga is it's longer and it's meant to be longer form, and this is a fairly long movie. That's the other thing. I was this is kind of a long movie. It's 2 hours long. Yeah,
128 minutes total runtime, and I was feeling the same thing. In fact, that was because he's directed long movies before, but Audition I think was about 2 hours as well, but that didn't feel as long as this one did. I think there's a lot of stuff that's drawn, and I think part of it is because they're trying to cram all these different things in it that you can tell that this story is made for a more serial format as opposed to a single movie.
Yeah. It's also I wonder if compared to Audition told one really long story.
Right.
Because it was the book first. It was that Murakami book. Also such an amazing book.
Yes, yeah, really.
He's such a good author who I feel most people don't think about.
Yeah, the first book of his I read was In the Miso Soup, which was just unbelievable.
That was good.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan of piercing, but
I haven't checked that one out, but I'll have to check that one out eventually.
It's good. I'm about it. But I was gonna be I think the difference between those two is Audition was long, but it told one really long story, and this obviously tells a long story too.
Right.
But there's a very definitive kind of middle to it, where it's all of it is the lead up and kind of showing how he's super calculating to then him just kind of going crazy.
Yeah.
And it's it kind of separates them almost as two almost different long films.
Yeah, you know what? It was
weird short films.
Right. The first time I watched it, I thought, oh, that was okay. And I had the same feeling when I was when we talked about Like a Dragon in the previous episode this season, is that was also a Miike film. And watching that one and watching this one, I both had kind of the same feeling coming out of it, where my feeling was I think I would have enjoyed it more if it wasn't a Miike film, but it being a Miike film, they feel like they don't quite match what I expect from him.
That's fair. That makes sense.
And,
I mean, I think he was a good director for the ending part.
Yeah.
Because his over the top, his over the topness, I think worked in the end, and I don't know if it worked as well.
Yeah, and I think that's part of just the fact that they're trying to cram too much, because he is good at the slow burn stuff, because Audition did have that slow burn and then that epic finale. But I think it was just, again, like you said, because Audition was telling that one story all the way through, he was able to be more focused. Whereas the focus is being split among all these different characters.
Yeah, because they had to tell the about the kid that was cheating, and then the teacher, and then talk about him and the student, but then also talk about the other dude and the other student. Yeah, because you had to know all of that, because that all leads together to his big plan at the end. So it was just all this cramming of information.
Yeah, I think they would have been well. I understand why they were trying to be faithful to the original story, but I think they would have been very well served if they had tried to combine some of these student storylines together to kind of make it a little bit more succinct. Because right as it is a bit sprawling in that middle point. And like I got kind of bored trying to keep all the different students straight as we were jumping back and forth between them.
Yeah, I also some of the students they almost kind of show them like they're important and give them kind of, like distinctive names, as they have.
Yeah.
But like distinctive names that he calls them. So you kind of go in thinking that they're going to be important and you need to like remember them. But then in the movie, they just get shot very easily. But in the manga, they do get shot easily also. But
okay. But there's a little bit more to them because they got
more, but there's more like more. Like right. I remember one is I forget his name. I'm not going to be good with names in this. There's too many.
That's okay. Yeah, there are way too many of them. I have trouble keeping them straight myself.
I'm like glasses dude who was like, I'm going to go to this university.
Oh, the overachiever guy. Yeah.
Yeah. In the manga, he is the same, but he is the one that he like comes up with this big plan, and you kind of see more of like why he has this plan that gets a bunch of people killed. And I was like, oh, that was like missing. I think.
Yeah, it was. It just they kept going back to him, like trying to come up with these plans and stuff like that. It felt really unnecessary in this movie because it doesn't really lead to anything.
Yeah, and I was just like, it made sense in the manga because they kind of could also show, in like one or two in like 2 pages, his entire thought process is there, and I was like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. And another thing you mentioned before that I was thinking too, watching this, is when you said it's almost like it's 2 different movies, and I kind of felt the same thing. Watching this, I came up with the analogy in my head that this is like if what was it? If Dexter and Jason Voorhees had a Japanese baby.
Aww.
Because it does start. He's very much like the Dexter type at the beginning, right? The whole He's a sociopath. He's using murder as a way to address these problems, like with bullying and cheating and all that kind of stuff. But then it spirals out into this, basically a slasher flick in the latter half when he's going through the school, and it just. Miike didn't really do a good enough job of blending those 2 different things together.
Yeah, it was interesting because like it reminded me a lot when I rewatched it of I think why I did not enjoy the movie A Silent Voice that much.
Okay.
Because that movie, and I felt the same thing a little bit about like Your Name. They feel like slice of life animes crammed into a movie. And that's kind of how I felt about this. I was like, this feels like it could have been like a TV show. Yeah. And would have maybe been better served as a TV show.
I think so too. And I think that's one of the things we keep coming to. So when you said it was because you said the manga was much longer form, and they've got the drama of it as well. And it just feels like there's too much they're trying to put in one thing, and they should have cut some of these characters out, or they should have just done this as a mini series or something, because there's too much movie for this runtime.
Yeah, there's just too much content they tried to pack it in, which honestly I will give it to them for trying to pack it all in there. Like
And I will give it for the performances.
Give it to you.
And the performances were really good in this as well. I thought Hideaki Ito did a really great job. And I'm not sure how much experience he has, either in with speaking English or even with being in an English-speaking country. But I believed that he had spent some time in America. Like that came off as real to me. The way he speaks English, it seems very natural for someone who had gone abroad and then come back.
Yeah, it really did. I remember that stuck out to me the first time too.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was also in Sukiyaki Western Django, and I do remember it was okay. So no, it wasn't him because he was the gunman, but there was the lead villain in that. I remember had his English performance was far superior to everybody else. So, but also you had Takayuki Yamada in this as well, who always surprises me every time I see him in a movie because he always looks completely different from my first impression of him, which was in Train Man.
Which one is he?
He plays the gym teacher.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember him because I was also like, I saw him and I was like, he looks much better in this movie than he does in the manga.
Oh, really?
Just like he's drawn very odd in the manga. And I was just like, oh, he looks much better in the movie. I also thought that about the art teacher. I was like, he looks much better in the movie.
Yeah, and then we also had the art teacher that was played by Takahiro Hira, who
that little dude deserved better.
Now he actually did live in the States. He went to he lived in the States from the time he was 15, actually. And then, he went to school in Rhode Island, and then he went to Brown University, and then after that, looks like he came back to Japan. But yeah, he was pretty good in that. I haven't seen any of the other stuff he's been in. It doesn't look like. And then, and the guy who played the physics teacher was really good. Mitsuru Fukikoshi, who he was in Coldfish, which he was really good in that.
I know that the kid. Oh my God, I know that's so descriptive. It's so descriptive. There's so many of them. Mm-hmm. The one that's in the guy that's in the relationship with the art teacher.
Yeah.
He's in the Netflix show. I think it's Hibana Spark. And he was really good in that. It's about the two comedians.
Okay, here we go. Television.
I think that was the name. That sounds right to me.
Yeah, Hibana Spark. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember
Kento Hayashi.
Yeah, I was like, that's the same dude. Mm-hmm. I don't remember why. I was just like, oh, that's that dude. And it was weird because it was like a couple of years after I first saw the movie that I saw that show. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Don't know why he stuck out. I was like, yeah, it's that dude.
Yeah, and there were trying to see if there's some other ones. There are a few other I did think the actress who played Mia, the student who is being forced into a relationship with the gym teacher and then later kind of has an affair with Hasumi. I thought she did a pretty decent job as well.
Oh yeah, she was. I felt like she did do well, and maybe it's because she did so well that I'm like, I didn't like her, but I'm like, I didn't like her in the manga either.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm also just like, I didn't like her character, but maybe it's one of those things of like, that means she did really well because the character stayed the same because I was like, I didn't like her in either.
She was also, and it's pretty impressive because she is one of these idol girls who ended up going into acting. And I think we may have I know I've touched on this in the show before. We may have talked about it a bit in Perfect Blue because we were talking about just the idol system.
Perfect Blue.
Right. Yeah. But those type of actresses, they tend to be a mixed bag. Some of them are just utterly terrible when they move into acting, but there are some that actually turn out to be pretty good. And she's definitely in the latter category, I felt.
She did do well.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad though. Those are like the only students that really stand out to me. It's like her, the dude who's in the relationship with the art teacher. Oh, there's the girl that's like in love or has a crush on the cheater.
Yeah.
Not relationship cheater, but the guy that like orchestrated the cheating of the exams. I don't remember names.
Yeah, I'm. Like there's so many, there are just so many, they just kind of blur together. And at some point, and like at the end, because I remember they were mentioning Satomi as being the one who had this message board going. And then at the end, you got the one guy, the archery guy who's looking around for Satomi. And at the entire time, I'm thinking like, I don't remember this ever seeing this girl up until that last sequence.
Yeah. And I think it's harder too, because just then you're talking about real people, being in it. And so people look a little bit more similar because you don't see them for that long.
Right.
And you see them in these like wide group shots where it's like everyone has the same color hair. Everyone's hair is kind of similar.
And it's all set in the high school. So they're all dressed the same as well.
Yeah, but like in the manga, I remember they keep showing you the class list with everyone's picture.
Yeah, and they also have
And
the
everyone-
benefit in the manga of being able to. They've got a little bit more artistic freedom when it comes to that. Because I remember that in the Battle Royale manga is the students were able to stand out a little bit more because they had the benefit of that artistic license.
Yeah, because I'm like, when I think about it, I'm like, more people stand out to me from the manga than in this. The only ones that stand out are the people that are like bigger plot moments.
Right.
And I don't even still can't do names.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just like the kids that are messing around with the AED and then die, and then the two that hide and drop a body down the chute.
Which I thought was that was a. Did they have that in the manga as well? Because I know you said the ending is a little bit different. So how is the ending different?
It's different in the sense of just it's a little longer. So like you know how this ends with like the girl who he threw off the roof kind of waking up.
Yeah.
That one ends with like the two that survive that are not her are like going to visit her in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Like post all of this.
Okay, so it's kind of like the difference between Fight Club the movie and Fight Club the book, where the movie ends just with the buildings blowing up, but in the book it ends with him believing he's dead, but really he's in a mental hospital.
Yeah, which is why I was like, I didn't understand why it says like to be continued, because I was like, there wasn't like a lot more.
Yeah, that stood out to me as well. I don't know why. For some reason it just didn't stick out to me the first time I watched it, but it definitely did this time. And I remember I was looking up, seeing like, was there a sequel? Did he make a second movie? But you know, there's no second movie, and I don't know. It was one of those weird things that I don't really know why he put that in there, because there is no other movie that's coming.
I wondered if, because I don't remember when I looked it up a long time ago, if maybe the drama was shown after the movie came out.
That could be it. That's a good point.
But I just was like, even when I rewatched it, I was like, but there's not more. Like that's basically the end.
I'm checking right now because I do see. So it was a mini. No, it just says prologue. So it was just. It's like you said, just more about his the early days.
Ooh, watch him murder more people.
But he does come back, and it's the same actor. It's Hideaki Ito plays him again in the drama. Okay, so yeah, I remember this now. This was like I think this was a short miniseries. Okay, so this is the second time Miike has done this, because when he did Like a Dragon, he also did like a short prologue to that as well, and it was something like a 40-minute prologue or something.
Oh, Like a Dragon. I love his range.
Yes.
He has such an odd range, because he did like that. He did Like a Dragon. He did Like a Dragon. He did Ichi the Killer. He did this. And then he did like the Ace Attorney movie.
Yeah, and he also did.
I was just like, didn't he do like a Doraemon movie at one point? And I was just like, what is happening?
Maybe. I don't remember, because when I first was introduced to him back in the early 2000s, and it was through audition, and then from audition I went to Gozu and Ichi the Killer. And so I had seen like all his at that time. I'm not sure about when you got interested in him, but I remember when I was getting interested in him in the early 2000s, he was all about like the low budget kind of like shock horror cinema. So lots of like Yakuza movies, lots of direct to video stuff. And then his stuff started becoming a lot more, because his stuff became so popular, and he started getting a lot more attention. And then he started doing a lot of, he started having these weird shifts in his work, where like he would go from like I'm trying to see, what was it he made, like The Great Yokai War, which is a kids movie.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. I just know like he did a kids movie, and then like almost immediately did like something else really crazy.
Yeah, he did
kind of like, and then he was doing stuff like this and like Ace Attorney, like based on video games and based on movie, or like on anime and stuff, because he like did the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie. He did Diamond is Unbreakable, the first one.
Yeah, he also did Crow Zero. That was another one based on a manga, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, I know he did As the Gods Will.
And
Which was
Blade of the
crazy.
Immortal, he directed that one.
Yeah. Oh, he
He
did
did,
Mole Song, which I
yeah.
love for whatever reason. It's super weird, and my friend hates it. And I think I just like the guy who's in it. So I'm like, no,
I
this
haven't seen
movie
that
is
one,
legit.
but yeah, he's just has this insane range where he did 13 Assassins, which is like one of the one of the biggest budget Japanese movies ever made too. So like he does these, and he's just constantly working. Like he does like 2 or 3 movies a year.
I want to find something that I love that much.
Yeah.
Like it's a career that I'm like, yeah, I want to do this every single day of my life.
Well, I mean, even as being a writer and a teacher, I love it. But there are a lot of days when I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do it today. But like he just keeps on working. He just keeps on cranking these things out, and yeah, it's unbelievable. When I remember, because he started in 1991, and when I first got interested in him in the early 2000s, by then he had directed like 90 movies.
Oh my God, he's been working as long as I've been alive. Oh my God.
And but yeah, he's a wonderful director. He's just got this insane range. Even like doing these Yakuza movies, and then he does like these more. He does some more quiet pictures. Like Sabu was one movie where it was this like rite of passage story set during the Edo period, and wasn't at all what I expected it to be. But then he also does stuff like that's just completely batshit insane, like Yakuza Apocalypse, which is like a Yakuza post-apocalyptic vampire movie.
Diamond is Unbreakable, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, always the pinnacle of insanity, but amazingness.
Yeah. So he does all these crazy different things, and because he does so much stuff, like there's some of his stuff is really good, some of his stuff it kind of it's a little bit less good. But to his credit, he's just someone who he doesn't take a lot of time off. He just keeps on cranking them out.
Fair.
Now I don't know as much about the German stuff in here, but it is clear that there's a lot of that influence, right? He's constantly going back to talking about Norse mythology. He tries to bring up that his actions when he gets caught, and this is one of the things I liked about him, is that he figures out he's going to use this insanity defense, which he comes up with basically spur of the moment like that when he realizes he can't get out of this.
Oh yeah, he's so smart.
He's yeah, and Ito does a really good job of portraying that intelligence. Like I believe that he's really this smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there is that thing where the other student says that he's starting the next game, right? And but you also get the sense that there's also, he's not completely lying with the insanity defense, because he does have the whole thing with the ravens he's constantly seeing, and then he also has that thing where he believes he's seeing his old partner in the gun.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't remember that from the manga.
Okay.
I mean, I think I do remember him just kind of talking out loud, but I don't remember. And again, maybe it's because I haven't read the manga in like a couple years.
I think maybe they wanted to keep those scenes of him talking out loud, talking to himself, but in manga, in a comic book, it's easy. In comics in general, it's easier to get away with that. In a movie, it's a little bit less believable unless you have some sort of reason for it. So I can understand why they inserted that with the if they did invent it for the movie.
Yeah. No, I was just like, I'm trying to remember, because I'm like, I don't remember it, but also it might not have been something that stood out to me. It might have been something that they like showed it once and then just expected me to remember it. And I was like, I'm trying to remember all these students. I'm trying to remember all these kids. I thought they were all important, and then they weren't. So I was like, there was a lot going on in my brain at that time.
Yeah. And I did like and in fact I didn't really this movie actually first because you said it the Mac the Knife song is a jazz version of Moritat, was it?
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
a longer name. I
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
what the whole name is, but that's like what it's called, like
And
canonically.
right, so Moritat and it's because we're watching the movie and um like at first my first thought was for some reason my brain just registered because I couldn't quite hear the lyrics but I knew it wasn't English and I recognized the tone of the music and I'm like, oh, this is isn't this is Mac the Knife? And then and I was thinking, I'm like, and my wife was watching it with me, and she's like, yeah, yeah, that song is really familiar. She's like, what language? She's like, what language is that? They're like, oh, it's Japanese. I'm like, wait, no, it's not, because then I realized they had the Japanese subtitles along with the lyrics. So, and and then so we realized it was German, and then after that, my first thought was, oh, maybe it's a German cover of the Mac the Knife song. And then they got to the point in the movie that explained it all. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
I did like that they did that.
Yeah, and because Mac the Knife is one of those songs that um, I don't. A lot of people don't really realize what those lyrics are actually saying. Because I remember I was like that for a long time, where I just it's a fun peppy song, and then you start listening to lyrics, and you're like, holy shit, this is actually kind of dark.
It's about murder.
Yeah, and so hearing this German version that was playing was really it was really interesting hearing that version along with it because it really and they use it to really good effect. It doesn't feel they keep using it enough times where it gets in your mind and it enhances the scene, but it doesn't feel like overdone.
Yeah. So I was trying to think about like distinctively when it plays, and like it's true. I can't think of like a lot of moments of when it like plays, but they were all like fairly pivotal moments.
Yeah,
because it's like when he kills his parents.
Right. I think that was the first time we hear it playing.
Yeah, and it's like really quiet as just like background music, like ambient noise almost. And then it plays when he's driving that body, but plays as like music, not as like ambient noise music.
And we also get the flashback when he's in America and him and Clay are listening to it.
Yeah, and he hears Mac the Knife though, because that guy's like, oh no, this is Mac the Knife. It's the jazz version of
right. Yeah.
Whatever of Moritat.
And that I was wondering when I was watching the scene with him and Clay because he's pretty much naked in that scene, and my impression was that he's bisexual or maybe asexual because it doesn't seem like he's got a lot of desire, and that maybe him and Clay had some sort of relationship going on, some sort of physical relationship. Did you get any of that, or am I just or am I reading it wrong? What do you think?
I don't know. And I know in the manga they imply that wait, no, I think that's his cousin. I know they almost like say he has a relationship with the like nurse lady, but then I can't remember if the nurse is actually like his cousin or some like family member, and that's why.
Okay.
So now I'm like, I don't want to be super certain about that. I do not remember in the manga they put more emphasis on his relationship with the girl.
Okay. Do you mean the student?
Yeah, with the student. So I remember that was like a bigger thing because it's like longer. They like show it more than they do in like the movie.
Okay. And Clay, the guy who played him, like this just
who is he? He looks so familiar to me.
I mean, I looked him up on IMDb, and
does he just have one of those faces?
He just has one of those faces because his name is he's listed as Jab, and I looked him up, and he's got no other acting credits. Just has like something as like a music credit or something.
Cool. Okay, for a second, I thought he was Tony Hale when I first saw him.
He does kind of.
And then I was like, that's definitely not Tony Hale, but it looks like a younger Tony Hale.
Yes.
Like you told me that was Tony Hale, like maybe like 10, 15 years ago, like the height of Arrested Development.
Absolutely.
I would have believed you, but I was like, that's definitely not him.
Yeah.
And then I was very confused for like it took up like my mind for a couple minutes. I remember. I was like, who's that man?
I don't know how they got, because he's terrible. He's just utterly awful performance, like easily the worst one in the movie.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was like, is he really bad because he was just a man that happened to be in Japan and they were just like, we need someone that speaks fluent English?
I think that's what happened.
Not at all, like, is not at all like Asian and is just like a white person that speaks like perfect English. And I was like, because I like watched it, I remember, and I was like, dude, I could do better and I'm a terrible actor.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I know at least a dozen people in Tokyo, foreigners, who could do a better job than this guy. So I don't know how they found him.
Not to say that he did a terrible, terrible, terrible job.
Oh, I will say that.
Like,
I will say that.
Like, no, I'm also just like, not to be like he's the worst actor that I've ever seen ever, but I'm just like, it was not. And maybe it's because he was overshadowed by like, I was more amazed by the English level of the main guy, and I was like, maybe that was more distracting to my brain at that time. But I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, he's not great. No,
like it's just he's extremely over the top. He just hams it up the whole time, and not in a fun way, right? It's not like this scene doesn't call for that kind of performance. I can understand if this were more like Ichi the Killer style thing, where it is like part parody, but this was supposed to be more of a serious movie, so he just kept pulling me right out of it.
Or I was even like, when you just said that, it made me think like, or if he was more like Andrew Scott in like when he's Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like he was over the top in these serious moments, but it seemed to weirdly fit because it made you just be like, oh, you can't read the tone of what's happening.
Right, yeah.
And so that's why you're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he, I guess, played a good role in the like, you saw that weird thing in the flashback where Hasumin is like, oh, you kill for pleasure. And then he kills. He's like, I don't do that. And then he kills him. But then later he just starts like shooting people. And I was like, oh, we've made like a total 180 on that statement.
Yeah, that kind of stood out. And that's why I said like, it seems in the first half, he's much more of a Dexter type. But then the second half, he like completely turns around. And it just seems like now he is just killing for fun. So I don't know. That I think that's one of those. Is that kind of? Do they have that kind of any sort of rationale for that in the manga? Like, does he ever make that statement that he doesn't kill for fun in the manga?
I don't remember an explicit. So I read like. Let's all get very real for a second. I read a fan translation of it.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know if it's ever officially been released in English.
Maybe not. Yeah.
I don't think so. It doesn't seem like the type of thing that would have been back when I read it. I don't fully support piracy, but I think that might be it, because I think this might be what I use as my argument of like, there's no way for me to legally read this. Like it hasn't been translated.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it hasn't, because I've used it as my argument of like, there was no way. My Japanese reading comprehension is not high enough. It would take me like a year and a half.
Right. Yeah. That would make
one thing.
Yeah, that would make sense to me, because they wouldn't have. It's not the usual type of manga that would be released, like you said. And if this movie were more popular in the West, because I know it obviously did get a release in the US, but this is not a movie I had heard of, and until like my student had mentioned it to me, so I don't think this really got a very huge reception. The reviews were pretty mixed on it, so it's not like. If it had been as successful or as notorious as say Battle Royale was, because then they translated the Battle Royale manga, but you don't have that here. Like this does not seem like it was popular enough to warrant the effort for some U.S. publisher to hire a translator and to release it out in the States.
Sell it.
Yeah.
But like, so with that in mind, because it means that I didn't read something where someone else was like 100% quality checking to make sure it like fully matched. I don't ever remember a specific point where he's given rationale. I just remember him like constantly, like he has like a clicker that he's like counting down his student, like counting his students on.
Okay.
And he keeps being like, it has to be done by a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what it's one of those things where his like, what I remember more is him being like, okay, it has to be like on this day because they're all going to be there overnight.
Right.
Preparing. So it was like gonna be that day. And he was like, had to plan the one, like fully how to do it. But I was like, I don't remember why. I think it was just, he was like, if he can turn this class around, he could be like an amazing teacher because he like gets a class that's not good.
Okay.
He gets like the problem class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like he's the homeroom teacher for this like problem class, and then he's almost like, I can't fix them. Or like, this is the best way to fix them.
Okay.
Is to just be like, no.
Now, I don't remember because I'm just looking at IMDb and I just want to quickly mention this is there was so the actress, one of the actresses who survives at the end, she is Fumi Nikaido is her name. And I actually just saw her in Why Don't You Play in Hell, a Shion Sono movie, which she was really good in that. And so I just wanted to quickly mention that if anyone wants to see her in something else, in a very completely different role. Like she does a really good job in that one.
Yeah, and she was also not bad in this.
No, I mean
she wasn't in it like a lot. And to be fair, most of it was her whining at that dude.
Yeah, the big problem is just like they don't really give her a whole lot to do.
She was good at the end.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the same thing with Takayuki Yamada, right? He doesn't really have a whole big presence in this movie, right? There's not a whole lot that he has to do in this movie.
Yeah. He's a gym teacher, right?
He's the gym teacher, yeah.
It's sad too, because he gets killed so fast in the movie. But in
yeah, I mean,
manga, he's like there a little bit more. And he like, I mean, not a lot more.
Oh, okay.
But like he's there, he's like showing them how to like a bear. No, not a bear attack. They call him a bear. He's like showing the teachers how to use something for defense purposes because of who he is, and he happens to be there. It's like he's not supposed to be there, I think.
Okay.
Or he is or something. He's like doing night watch or something.
So yeah, there are a lot of actors in that. Like this movie just doesn't do a whole lot of favors to a lot of these actors who aren't Ito, right? Because you've even got Mayu Matsuoka. She played Satomi, and she was also Aki in Shoplifters. And yeah, and there are a few other ones too. Yukito Nishi, he plays, I don't remember who he plays in this movie, but he was also in Confessions. And so like a lot of these other actors who have been in a lot of other good stuff, their talents are all just kind of wasted in here. They don't really have a whole lot to do.
I mean, I feel like a lot of that is just there's so many people.
Yeah, that's kind of why.
It is so over the top that it's kind of one of those at the end when I think a lot of them come into play a little bit more.
Right. Yeah.
It is a little bit more like, I mean, how do you do well when the main focus is a man talking to a gun and singing?
Right. Yeah.
And just shooting people indiscriminately. Like, how does anyone stand out during that?
Right. Yeah. Very good point. Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about this movie? Any other things you think we didn't talk about or that you wanted to bring up?
I feel like there was, and I just can't place my brain on it right now. I like this movie. I mean, it's not like best movie I've ever watched in my life. So,
yeah. It's enjoyable enough, and like I said, I think I'd like it a lot more if it wasn't directed by Miike. But from Miike, I expect something a little bit better. And I do feel like if you would cut maybe half an hour out of this movie, it would be a lot better as well, because there is just this long slog to get to the end.
Yeah, I just feel like this could have been better as like a mini series, as like if they had let it be like 3 or 4 hours and had essentially done like 3 or 4 1-hour things.
Yeah.
It might have done it
Oh, absolutely. I think so too.
Right.
It kind of makes me think of the Ju-on Netflix series in that way, because
Oh my
that
God,
was,
so scary.
yeah, and that was like what,
So
like
good.
it's basically like a 6 hour movie, but it's chopped up into these individual episodes, and so it's much more digestible. It gives the story more space to kind of flesh itself out. Whereas this, they're just trying to throw it all in at once, and it doesn't quite work together.
Which is weird because I almost want to be like, if they had taken the time that they had put into the drama and given maybe that amount of time to the movie and kind of switched them and had been like done his background as a movie and
Yeah,
done the movie as a TV show and done his background as a movie.
yeah, it's really weird they decided to do it that way, because it does, you're right, it does feel like it should be the other way around.
But also maybe this over the topness like just would not have done well on TV.
Yeah, because this was 2012 and streaming wasn't really a thing in Japan back in 2012. It didn't really come out here until like maybe 2014, 2015 or so. At least as far as they did have Hulu, but it was, very bare bones at that time. And Netflix didn't come out here until like 2014, 2015. And even then, it's only within like the past 3 years or so, they really started getting, Japanese productions to be made specifically for Netflix. Like Shion Sono's got to deal with them, and then like Terrace House and all that kind of stuff. But up before that,
Exams is on Netflix.
yeah,
so dope.
So like if it had been done now, I think they probably would have done it as like a Netflix series or something like that. But as it stands, it's too much cramped with not enough space to let the story really breathe.
Which would be interesting because I actually think if they did it as a Netflix show now and like released it in America too, I think it would be a lot more popular. Because I think that if it went on streaming here, more people would give it a chance in America, and you would see like a lot of the like diehard fans of like Battle Royale and people who like As the Gods Will, or like Dead Man, like people who like Dead Man Wonderland,
right,
would like love this.
Yes, I think so too. I think if they had chosen to redo this as a Netflix miniseries, I think it would be much more successful than this movie had been, and much more well received.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's got a kind of interesting story.
It is interesting, and Hasumi is an interesting character. So I am curious to check out the manga now that I know about it.
See, I want to watch the drama now because I'm like, I need to know more about him.
Yeah.
Except I don't want that one dude to be in again. He's like not a great actor.
I don't know if he is. He might be. I'm trying to see.
I mean, we can just recycle the same shots. I feel like I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
They weren't great.
I'm looking up here. I don't see his name in the cast, so it looks like he's not in that.
Is it on IMDb? I don't trust IMDb.
Yeah, it is. It is on IMDb. It's
which is weird. It's like IMDb is a weird thing that's like almost like canonically how you find out who's on what.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I don't trust it because I looked up I was trying to find out who was in the Netflix show Detention, that Taiwanese show.
Mm-hmm.
It only showed me one person in the cast.
Yeah, when it comes to
I'm sure that there's more people.
Yeah, when it comes to foreign movies, they're really kind of they're a lot more bare bones about stuff. Like a lot of times, they might have the actors right, but they don't have any character names. So
yeah,
like,
it's just a list of like, here's all the people that are in it, but we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. I don't know these recent pictures of them or this 10-year-old picture of them. I only know who they were in the movie.
Or some don't even have pictures at all.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, I don't know what this placeholder image person is.
Okay, Jen. So thanks again for coming on the show. Talk about Lesson of the Evil. I remember last time you didn't really have anything to promote or anything to direct people towards. How about this time? Anything you wanted to plug or promote?
I guess not really.
Okay.
I keep telling myself I'm gonna start a podcast, and then I just like get lazy or get distracted. I'm not even lazy. I just am like, I know that the big thing is I just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also just like, or I could play Little Nightmares.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely sympathize with that because for years I had said, "Oh, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast," and then it took forever before I finally actually sat down and did it.
So yeah, I know I just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I literally bought a domain for it because
Oh, okay.
I got really driven one day and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to do it. And so I bought a domain and then obviously, you know what? And then the pandemic like hit full force,
Mm-hmm.
like where I was just like, oh, now I don't have the free time from quarantine.
Mm-hmm. One of the things
Like,
too is, and one of the things that helped me get another show I do on Off the Ground is having someone to do it with. So if you can find like a co-hosting partner, I definitely recommend that because it kind of kicks your ass into gear a little bit because you don't want to let the other person down.
yeah, maybe that's the big thing. I need to find someone that I don't want to let down.
Yeah.
Everyone else I know is like me and is like, yeah, or we just like lay around.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on. And if you ever do get that podcast up and running, be sure to let me know, and we'll put a link to it on the website. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. It was a lot of fun having you on again to talk about Miike and get a little bit of insight into this movie from someone who has read possibly a poorly translated version of the manga. We don't quite know yet, but
I mean, it wasn't bad. That's not to say that the translation was terrible. It was good. I don't know how close it truly is. Cause like,
right. No oversight.
I have no clue what the original was.
Okay.
But I mean, the story made sense and it all made sense and nothing seemed super like, oh, that doesn't even make sense.
Okay. Well, that's good. Okay. So for everybody else, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This week we did Lesson of the Evil, and our movie next week for our next episode is going to be just double checking the schedule here. Next week we're going to be doing Big Man Japan. So, and I believe we're having a new guest host coming for that as well. So please be sure to be here next week when we talk about that. Until then, go to japanonfilm.com. Our Twitter, our Instagram is japanonfilm at both of those. Please review us if you like the show. Let other people know about it so more people can listen to it. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. For watching this episode of Japan on Film. For more of our videos, just hit the subscribe button.